From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Vicky. Who else is hosting?
Oh, will you stop it? I'm Bill.
You're Bill? Okay. All right. How about I do this? I'm not Vicky.
Okay. I'm Vicky.
No, you would go, and I'm not Bill. But whatever. We're going to work on this.
All right.
Luckily, we don't have anybody here who's a professional in radio, so he can't criticize our intros whatsoever. He is once again joining us. It's been a while. He was on episode number 191, part of our Racing 101 series, and we believe he's graduated to at least 201, maybe even 301. It's been a while, been a bit.
It has.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to welcome back to the podcast, Adam Owens. Welcome back, Adam.
Hey, thanks
Hi,
a lot, guys.
Adam.
Thanks for having me back.
That's right. We caught you conveniently shortly after you'd started. Not too long, but we're kind of still rookie-ish, progressing through the system, and we tried to talk you into getting your own car and stopping with this rental thing, and you wisely, as most of our listeners did, ignored our advice, which is always the way to go, and you stuck with it. And I've been monitoring it from both a distance and close, because a lot of times we're at the same race, and you are progressing quite nicely, sir.
Things are going pretty well. So yeah, when we first talked, I had 3 track days, a 1-day race school, and just 1 champ car race under my belt. And now I have, since then, I've done 2 more track days and 11 endurance races.
Wow.
So yeah, I put some hours down, and I've been keeping track of this, and I have 43 hours of seat time on racetracks, and almost all of that is wheel to wheel.
Wow.
And while 43 hours does not quite reach the 10,000 hours that some people say,
right?
I believe you've got a track field density that makes those 43 hours multiply to, you might not be 10,000 yet, but you're getting closer.
Well, we usually do track field density. You just mean that because I'm out there with so many other cars,
exactly.
The experience is worth a little more, maybe. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at F1 and try to see what a driver passes in a season, I think we routinely do that in a weekend.
Absolutely.
If not way more, depending on the car. Sometimes we're past way more, but that's a different story. Depends on how the car is going. So, Adam, I do horrible intros. You're professional at this. You care to give an intro for the people who weren't lucky enough to listen to our earlier episode?
Yeah. So I'm Adam. Hi. It's nice to be on the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Long-time listener, second-time caller.
Right. I sort of accidentally found myself working in radio when I was about 20, and I'm 41 now, and I've been working at radio stations ever since. That's my main job. I have some sort of side gigs, as most radio DJs do, to earn a little extra money. And I always wanted to, be in cars on racetracks, and I never really had the mechanical wherewithal to, sort of manage my own track car, and I didn't want to, truck and trailer and all that stuff to tow it to and from tracks. And so I was sort of stuck, and I didn't know, well, I could never do this. But then once I started making a few bucks, I went looking to see if somebody would rent me a seat in a track car. And sure enough, they will. And after a couple of track days, I was it wasn't enough. You're out there for 20 minutes at a time. You're waiting on point buys to get by people. And then after 20 minutes, they call your group in. So I said, what's the next step? It's endurance racing. And sure enough, people will rent you seats in endurance racing cars too. So that's where I've been.
Wow. And we spoke to you a while ago, but I mean, you've progressed so much.
I think he's faster than most of us now.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's the car a little bit, a lot. But I've really put some time in. And it's been awesome to see myself able to progress. And I've had experience in Champ Car races and Lemons races, and also this other series called Bracket GP that I'd love to talk about a little bit. It's really cool.
Up at Thompson?
Yeah, up at Thompson. I can't remember the guy's name now, but it's just this great guy who runs the show there, and he's got a good group of people that work on it with him. And I've learned so much, and I still have, miles and miles and miles to go, but I'm feeling more confident. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I'm definitely getting faster. So it's really cool.
What do you
Yeah.
What
Go
do you
ahead.
think? What do you think skills wise? What do you think the biggest change in your driving skills, and that could be mental and physical? What do you think the biggest changes have been over the couple of years?
It's probably to do with car control. Car control for sure. I'm catching the car. I'm letting the car get a little looser, and I'm catching it much easier, and I'm keeping it, keeping the speed up. And just confidence to move around traffic and through traffic and kind of put my nose in places where I know I can get out safely. And also to stay away from places where I know that I can't get through safely and wait for another appropriate moment to get through.
Except when you're driving at New Hampshire in the Halloween Hoopty Fest, which seems to be.
Ooh.
I've had some. There's been some bad times, and with the good, we'll say.
Well, that race seems to be a debacle every year. So I'm just
every year.
Yeah,
that wasn't an Adam shot. That was a what are you guys
No.
doing?
That was a hopefully your car will come back in one piece type of race.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not so much the racing, it's the way the track is constructed.
Yeah, and it's a shorter track, and you pack 110 people onto it, and there's just
There's a couple bottlenecks.
Yep, big bottlenecks for sure.
Mhm.
And well, there's this actually part of this too, I think kind of speaks to the Lemons versus, let's just say, Champ, because those are my sort of two homes right now. There's a big difference, and it's in terms of sort of driver skill and also awareness. So what can often happen in just about any Lemons race is, let's say there's a full course yellow, the cars will start to bunch up, and maybe the yellow gets taken down, and so the course returns to green and everyone starts going again, but not everyone saw that happen. And so then you've got some cars just sitting there in the middle of the road thinking it's yellow, and you've got to now kind of zip around them or find a way around them without making more of a bottleneck.
Yeah.
I think the tip of the spear is similar in the two series. It's just that Lemons has a much wider range from top to bottom.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So
I find that Lemons is a lot of novices out there, many of whom are on a racetrack for their first time. Some people, they'll skip a race school, they'll skip track days, and they'll just go endurance racing. And Lemons lets you do that, and you can do that, and people will, but it kind of means that there's a lot more diversity in experience out there. And when you get into a Champ Car race, generally the speeds are higher, the cars are more prepared, the drivers have more experience, and generally things move faster and a little more predictably. But there's something to be said for running in a field of mixed classes and mixed abilities in Lemons that keeps you
Sharp.
very sharp. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we had Kyle, who is a racer for a NASCAR section of NASCAR truck racing. So, but he wanted to come join the team and kind of play with us a little bit for the reason of it sharpens your skills because you're driving an unfamiliar car, number one. And number two is because that there was a lot of diversity on the track that he would have to maneuver around. So it does sharpen the skills.
I find that Lemons, at a Lemons race, I will do a lot of overtaking. At a Champ Car race, I will be overtaken all day.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And it's funny is I would love to kind of shoot right in the middle of those two things, but well, maybe that's bracket. I'm not sure, but there's just, it's definitely different vibes, different crowds, and different levels of proficiency between Lemons and Champ. But also the two series kind of have some different rule sets that really create a pretty substantial difference in the way they run. So like, for example, a Lemons race, when there's an incident that requires a support vehicle to go out, they will generally just do yellow flags around the incident. And as you pass the incident, you return to racing. But
Mhm.
Champ, if Champ needs to send a truck out to pick up a car, it's full course yellow. And when that happens, everybody bunches up behind the lead car or the pace car. And then when it goes green again, it's a race start. It's essentially a race start. You've got the whole field packed up, and then bang, there they go. And race starts are mayhem in many cases, absolute pandemonium. And at a Lemons race for sure, and at a Champ race too. But where Lemons kind of does this local yellow, I think it must be called. And it's it's because they do, what is it, hot pulls they call it,
hot pulls,
yeah. So they'll tow a car on a hot course, basically. I mean, they'll have yellow flags around the tow truck, and they'll put a white flag up ahead of the tow truck, so that that there's a support vehicle ahead. But Champ does the thing where they bunch the whole pack up, and then they restart them, which like I said, kind of pandemonium. And if it happens to be wet, it's like
just
pandemonium.
the whole story about the yellow flags. And were you there for pit race this past year?
Lemons.
The season, Lemons. Holy cow.
Was that, let me think now. I'm trying to remember. Was it the first day was snow and rain and hail?
Yes.
And the second day was beautiful? Yes, I was.
Right. Do you remember that every time there was a yellow flag, especially a full course yellow flag, and when that flag was lifted, it was mayhem anyway, because there was always, like, within 10 minutes, there was another car off, and then another car off. And then
I'll tell you, I went back to pit race a second time this year with Champ. And it was actually pretty much the same thing. The first day it rained. The second day it was a nice day. The first day it started raining, and predictably there was an off or whatever, full course yellow. Everyone bunches up. They restart the race. Someone immediately goes off again, back to full course yellow. And you basically get one lap of racing, 10 laps waiting for to get out of the yellow, and then the rinse, lather, repeat. Eventually they red flagged or they black flagged the race and brought us in 2 hours early and canceled the rest of the race, not because the conditions were unsafe. You can race in the rain, but because the driving was unsafe, and because the group of people out there were too aggressive on the restarts. And it was just pandemonium. And, our team, bless our hearts, we were all fine. Our car stayed pointed the right direction, no problems. But the other teams were just, screwing it up for everybody.
Wow.
There's a reason Lemons prefers to do live hot pulls, because the last thing they want is more bunches of cars.
So I think that really works in Lemons's favor in terms of making it a more fun and productive experience. You just get more time in race mode, basically. But Lemons does this other thing that I feel pretty strongly like is kind of the other direction, and it's how they require pit stops to happen, which is to say there's not really much requirement. Your driver can be out as long as you want. There's no stint length limit. Also, you refuel the car as fast as you possibly can. And then as long as the driver's out of the car and there's a fire bottle pointing at the fueling area, you can refuel the thing as fast as you can, which seems nuts to me. Champ Car has a 5-minute time limit you have to stick it with, which kind of removes the pressure from the fuel stop, and I think creates a much more sort of safe environment where you're not screaming to like hustle those bottles over the wall and whoops, you drop one and whoops, there's a spill or anything like that. You can relax and take a breath. It seems to me that the Champ Car method of pit stops and fueling and driver changes is way safer than what Lemons is doing. And I'm sure Lemons has a reason for the way they do it too. But, with all the novices at Lemons, I was surprised to find out that it wasn't the opposite, that Champ didn't do it Lemons way and Lemons didn't do it Champ way.
Yeah, they do that in Lucky Dog also. When we had done that. And the other thing that really kind of surprised me about it was that you could do just a little bit more over the pit wall.
What do you mean?
And well, because they allowed you to set up on the pit lane. You're allowed to have your tent and your tools and things there.
Champ Car, same way. Yeah, you can.
I was really surprised by that, but I don't know if you could do it actually on the hot pit. I think they have them so you can bring them right around.
No,
you can change wheels and tires. You can add oil.
See, that is just, that was kind of shocking for me, but I could see why Lemons wouldn't do that because
Yeah,
of the
I understand as
inexperience
well.
for sure.
Well,
For sure,
you don't have
but-
enough room.
Right.
Yeah.
That too. Right. There's not enough room at these.
It's not 140 easy
I
off.
know, right?
Could
But that
you
was kind of
imagine?
shocking. I'm like, I don't feel really safe about it. But yeah. But Adam, I mean, I think that right now, I mean, you are just the absolute perfect example of the greatness of what we call just say yes. And don't talk yourself out of a good time.
Hey, you said, how can I go do this? I want to do this. And
Right.
it worked out.
How can I
man.
make it happen?
Yeah, that's. I mean, well, it took money. I'll be totally honest. And
Oh, it's
Right.
not free.
working in radio for most of my life, money was not really a part of my life. I barely had enough to get by. Finally, a couple of side gigs enabled me to start saving money and spending it on something like this. And thank goodness, because I've been loving it. But you know what? I have to say, there are moments when I think to myself, like, do I really want to be doing this? Is this really fun? As I, in 3 hours and 5 minutes into a stint, I forget, my water bottle I can't reach. I've got a cramp in my leg. I'm regretting every decision I've ever made.
Water
bottle. But then the checkers fly and it feels amazing, and you just can't wait for the next time.
Do you ever notice it correlates with how tired you are?
Oh yeah, and I mean, just the amount of focus you need to really have on preparing your body physically as well as emotionally and mentally, but really physically, the hydration, the eating well, stretching, and getting a good night's sleep. And like I'll completely avoid caffeine and alcohol for a couple of days prior to an event. Really, I mean, I started putting a lot of effort and thought into what's going on from the top of my head to the tip of my toes, because there's some really important systems inside the driver that need to work correctly so that all the systems in the car can work the best.
Mm-hmm.
It is an athletic endeavor, even though
you don't
you're
realize
doing is just driving.
Yeah, you don't realize how much it takes out of you.
No,
because you're just thinking, oh, well, you're just driving on a track.
Well, no, I do. But you look at your race suit afterwards, and it is soaked. Like
right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of physicalness that goes into it too. And like you said, concentration and, sometimes it's so easy to zone out if you're not careful.
It really, yes.
Have you caught yourself zoning out?
Especially in a long stint. Yeah.
Right.
Got to bring yourself back.
How did you and your team handle those?
Well, the first time we didn't handle it, and I had a moment of contact and got myself black flagged. I was maybe 90 minutes into a 2.5 hour shift, and it was just that point where I was just kind of getting tired and kind of losing it, and then bang, I tapped a guy, and the next day I kind of realized like that was because I had been I was starting to lose focus. So
we're in the zone, but not the zone,
right? So one of the things I'll do is I'll often ask one of the guys on my team to just radio check me, 90 minutes or 2 hours into my shift, if it's a longer shift, and just say, hey man, how you doing? Make sure you're focused. Maybe dial it back a little bit. On a long shift, it's more important to drive cleanly than fast.
Yes.
Way more important. I mean, a single black flag will ruin your entire race.
But Adam, I saved half a second every lap.
And that can be great, but it's totally meaningless if you are screwing it up for your car, for your team.
But if you do the math, half a second every lap times like 50 laps, that's like 25 seconds, Adam. I saved all that time.
It's not going to cut it. I mean, yeah, you've really if you watch the Lemons World videos or the race wrap up videos, they are always harping on the importance of a clean race. And it's the first time you see it, you're like, oh yeah, whatever. But it's completely true. You really got to be clean.
Because I'm telling you, the people that really succeed in the racing is how fast their pit stops are.
Yep.
No black flags and just a steady pace.
Yep.
Just, and honestly,
how many
save the crazy racing for the end. When the real competition kicks in, you just want to have your car endure.
You're right. Exactly.
Until like the last half hour to figure out where you're at.
I don't know. I still think if I save 25 seconds, that should make up for my 15-minute black flag. Because
Racer's advocate over there.
The math works, man. 25 seconds versus 15 minutes. Obviously, 25 seconds was worth it.
So how's the Haterade car been? Didn't you guys get into a crash?
Sure. So,
Which one?
So that
Yeah, I think there was one at NJMP where you guys got taken out.
The Haterade car hit a tire wall at NJMP, not super hard, but hard enough to take it out at the end of the first day.
Mhm.
But the guys, the two team principals. So the team that I run with, they're called the Boston Whiners. They're based out of Boston, Mass. And they have, when I first met them, they had two cars on the squad. And one was this, I'm wearing the shirt. You can't see on the podcast, but I'm wearing the shirt. It's this green and white E30 with it looks like a Gatorade logo, but it says Haterade. And if you've been hanging around Lemons races for a minute, you've seen this car. It's been around.
Everybody knows the Haterade car.
Yeah. So it turns out actually too that there was a team before the Whiners that built the car, beat the snot out of it, and then sold it to the Whiners, who proceeded to run the thing to within a millimeter of its life. So the two team principals are these guys, Andy and Anton. And there's the Haterade car, which is basically what the new people drive. It's a 1.8. It's quite lightweight. It's, there's not really enough power to get you into trouble, and it's very predictable and easy to recover. It's a very friendly beginner car. Their other car was usually an E30 with a 6-cylinder in it and much, bigger brakes, much more race prepped. Mm-hmm. And that car, they say that's what the team principals will drive, and that's what the more experienced drivers will drive. And they have actually won a handful of Lemons races with that car, which got itself kind of destroyed at the end of a New Hampshire race in 2021. The running gear was swapped into a different E30, which won New Jersey in 2022, and then got obliterated at Thompson in a pretty nasty incident during a Champ Car race. Fortunately, everyone's fine. Driver walked away, but that car was totaled, and so they've replaced that now with an E46, and it sounds like that's the direction the team is going, is generally E46s. But this Haterade car, back to the incident at New Jersey, stuffed the nose into a tire wall. Again, everyone's fine, but the car was pretty bent up. Motor mounts were broken, and this was on Saturday. So the guys wheel it into the paddock, and they ratchet strap it against a building and a truck, and they pull it straight again, or some facsimile of straight. I mean, it's definitely, you couldn't balance a ball bearing on this thing at all, but they got it pretty well straightened out. The motor mounts were broken. Nobody had motor mounts for this 1.8 liter because everyone in an E30 has a 6-cylinder in it, I guess. And so they go to Home Depot and they buy some angle iron, and they're fabricating motor mounts at like 1 a.m. The next day, I go out in the car for a shift, and it runs better than it did the day before. I mean, they're just brilliant.
It's bespoke, man.
It is absolutely bespoke.
It was a pro move. It was a pro move.
And I mean, that's like one of the plethora of reasons why I rent. Like if that had happened to me in my car, I would have given up, sold the rolling chassis, and gone home and just forgotten racing forever. These guys busted it out in 5 hours and like had the thing ready to go the next day.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. It's just what we do to the cars. They do survive.
There's a whole different level of what you'll do at the track versus prepping for the track. And some of this is, don't try this at home, people.
Right.
Much. So Haterade car is basically going great. It had its last event was at New Hampshire this year, and I'll tell you about that a little later, because it was probably my best achievement to date. And it wasn't a win, but boy howdy, we came within spitting distance, and it felt really good. But basically, for the last couple of years, I've been just running with this team out of Boston. And one of the things we talked about when I first came on the show a couple of years ago was, well, if you rent a car, if you're a rental racer, you don't really have a chance to develop an intimate relationship with the car and really get a feel for it. But since I've been renting from the same team, and they've been basically putting me in the same car, I have had that opportunity. So it's been wonderful. So I've really gotten a good feel for this little E30. And then they did stuff me in one of the E46s a couple of times, and I got a chance to drive that at sort of various stages of race prep. So the first time they had me in it, it had stock suspension, no ABS, no power steering, and no weight reduction. Like the trunk weighed as much as I do. The thing was just, it was a family sedan that had a set of harnesses and a roll cage, basically.
Wow.
And I got a chance to drive it. Then they enabled the ABS, and they got the power steering hooked back up, and they started to do some, weight reduction on it. And so I got to feel it kind of get a little sharper, get a little better. that was great. So sticking with the same team has been awesome. And to be totally honest, it's been a miracle and a godsend that I hooked up with these guys. I could have hooked up with any rental team, but I managed to connect with these guys who really know their stuff, and they're just super friendly, and they keep the cars going. They just manage to keep the cars going. It's just been awesome.
But I think also is that they're very familiar with your driving style and they know where they can put you now.
Right. As I got to know them,
and you're learning.
They got to know me. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. And you're learning from them, and you might be driving the E46 next. That's leveled up at some point.
Yeah, we'll see. But I gotta say, I love this little E30, like the little 1.8 liter. Like, it's a kind of an underdog, but it's a featherweight too, so you can really hang out on.
Mm-hmm.
You can wait to get on the brakes a long time. Everyone else is hard on the brakes, and you're just still flying down and towards your corner. And there's, so there's not much motor, so you gotta be a little careful with hills and things like that. And you got to manage your power a little better, but it's been a blast, and it's been a really fun car to drive.
Oh, wow. So let's talk a little bit more about your Champ car experiences, because I know you kind of briefly touched. Where are some of the places that you were racing with Champ?
It's a lot of the same places that we go with Lemons, actually. Thompson, really? Pittsburgh. Champ goes to Watkins Glen, but I have not yet joined them at the Glen. Now, I did a track day at the Glen couple of years ago, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it was obvious to me that it was I've heard it referred to as a big boy track.
It's a leveled track.
Yeah, it's like a next step kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of concrete barriers instead of runoff. There's so if you make a wrong move, the consequences can be a little more severe.
And when we were actually training out at Watkins Glen, I never really thought about that. I just like, okay, well, when you come to this part of the boot, you're going to go high, and then when you see the wall, you're going to kind of go left. And I never really kind of thought about the walls too much,
right?
And then we kind of went to the track in Charlotte International Raceway, I think it was, and when Jennifer got into the accident, and we it was our first showing for the Deadpool car, and Jennifer ended up hitting the wall with it. That's when that's when I saw the walls.
Yeah.
I just never really saw them before.
Well, and at a track day, the walls are reference points, because you're
right.
you're on your own. There's no threat of another car coming up your blind spot or whatever. But in a wheel to wheel, and especially wheel to wheel with like a more amateur group like Lemons. So I guess Lemons doesn't race at Watkins Glen for
a reason, and it's a good thing.
Well, I think the other reason might be that the Watkins Glen doesn't do hot pulls, I heard, and Lemons requires hot pulls to happen, which we talked about a minute ago, and makes good sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Champ does race at Watkins Glen. I haven't been there yet, but I'm pretty sure that's in the future for me. Let's see, Pittsburgh, Connecticut, Watkins Glen. Where else does Champ race? New Jersey. I actually don't remember. I didn't do a New Jersey race with Champ, if there is one. But the Champ car races and there was my very first wheel to wheel race was with Champ. And like I said, it is faster. The cars are more prepared. There are rear engine Porsches out in the field,
right?
A few of them at least, and and they smoke everybody else. Just the level of competition is much more substantial. So at a Lemons race, you might go there with the intent to maybe finish a podium in your class. You could actually achieve that,
and hope not to get in the way too much.
Yeah. Champ, you're just there to have fun. Like there's not really a competition for us at Champ. We're just there to have fun.
Just for the experience.
Bill's microphone has gone off.
Yeah, I can understand, but I mean, for me, I'm just any opportunity I have to get out there and be wheel to wheel for more than 25 minutes at a time, I'll take.
Yeah.
And I find, and again, I do find that I set my fastest laps. I've been keeping track of my fast laps, and I'm setting my fastest laps at Champ car races. The overall speed is just higher.
What has been your favorite track so far?
I still really, really like Pit Race. That was my answer first time around, and it's probably still my answer. New Jersey Thunder, the not dong
Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt.
The Thunderbolt.
So I did Thunderbolt with Lemons this year, and I really liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun, and I tried to get myself back there, even just for a track day, because I wanted to get back out on that track. But the track day I signed up for got canceled.
Yeah, they're redoing that track.
They are, so they're resurfacing it, which should be cool.
And I think they're talking about redoing the octopus
as an option.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I love that part. That's a really cool part of the track, and you can just hug the inside. I was hanging like both driver's side wheels over the grass. They weren't even touching the grass because the passenger side wheels were totally loaded up. And I just had the car halfway off the track and was just scooting right through the octopus on the inside of everybody else. Oh, that was a fun race. But one of the things that has been terrifying has been racing in the rain.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to actually have a track day at Thompson in a spec Miata on a rainy day before I ever went wheel to wheel racing in the rain. And thank goodness. I mean, it's just a totally different kettle of fish. You just wheel to wheel, there's the traction issue, right? You just gotta we gotta watch out for the wet spots. You gotta find the dry spots when they're out there, and you gotta watch out for the rubbery parts as they get wet because they get slippery. But then you're wheel to wheel, and you've got a pack of 6 cars all traveling together, and the spray they're kicking up will blind you, and you just sort of have to have faith that everyone's going to do the right thing at the right time, and it's terrifying.
And for the most part, they do, yeah.
For the most part. But you lose sight of the other cars, and you just sort of, you assume they're still there, and you come around the corner, and yes, they are. Thank goodness.
Yeah. You'd have to come to us at one point to go out to Mid-Ohio and experience a track day there, because the way it's set up, you're forced to drive offline. Because if you drive in the wet, because if you drive on the inside on the actual track line, it's super, super slippery by the way the track is designed.
Oh.
And surfaced. So you're forced to gnip all the way around the track to avoid these spots, which forces you to go offline.
Yeah, right. In the rain in general, it can be counterintuitive. You're often the line where all the rubber collects on the road gets slick, so you often kind of have to steer around the spots you're used to steering through. And some of the cars have rain lights on the back, which is just a big bright red light that just stays on. But I don't think that Champ or Lemons requires them.
No, we have them on our cars though.
It's a great idea. I would strongly recommend it. But yeah, I don't think it's required, which I kind of think it maybe ought to be.
Bill always travels with rain slicks if he knows that the weather's going to be.
I always bring the good set of tires that are on the car. A spare good set of dry tires, and a spare set of wet tires. Yeah. And Vicky always yells at me saying, "Why do we have all these tires?" I'm like,
"Oh, he showed up with like 8 sets of or like 2 sets or 3. No, you would set up with like 2 sets of tires. You had the good ones, and then you would have.
I would bring 3 extras.
But you can use them for all sorts of other things, like to weigh down your easy up, or if another team blows a tire and
make a little extra money, sell them off.
Yeah, Bill Fisher's House of Tires.
That's right.
You know how many when we had the E36, you know how many tires we lent to friends?
Lots.
Sure.
Yeah.
Lots.
And but the other thing about racing in the rain is, that whole that scenario that happens when there's a full course yellow, the whole field punches up, and then there's a restart. If that happens in the rain, sort of like we said earlier, pandemonium ensues. It just makes the whole thing, it makes a crazy thing crazier. And just, keeping your head on your shoulders and cleanly getting through a restart, especially in the wet, is, it's a skill that people really need to kind of have confidently developed.
So picture this, if you will. We're going down the front straightaway of pit race. You got this? You ready?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ready.
Okay, we're doing a drill. It's 3 wide drill, simulated race start. Going down the front straightaway of pit race. Lovely, nice straightaway, right? Plus it's raining. So then they drop the simulated green flag because it's not a race. It's a simulated race. And the guy in front of me, because I'm in the middle, because when it's raining in 3 wide, you want to be in the middle because that's where that's the
fun place.
Yeah, that's the fun place. The guy in front of me misses his shift. So what does one do when presented with 3 wide, 6 deep in the rain, and the guy in front of you misses his, you sit there and say, I don't care. I will wait, because you don't go left and you don't go right.
Right. No, you right. There have been plenty of positions where I've gotten just sort of stuck, and
it is what it is, man.
Yep. There's not much you can do about it. You can scream and shout, and maybe the microphone on the camera picked up some of the curses I was shouting over the.
You make some hand gestures. I'm not saying there. It's like
no, but sometimes there's nowhere you can go, and you just have to kind of accept that. Yeah.
Right.
It's called the lemons rule. So the lemons rule is it's like lemons is what lemons is. If you want lemons to be what you want lemons to be, you're not going to be happy. But lemons is going to be what lemons is, and enjoy it for what it is. And if you like it, great. If you don't, you probably should go.
Yeah. You let it wash over you. Just be like water.
Exactly. Because you aren't changing it anytime soon.
No, it's you're just there for a good time, really. Everything else is just a little bit of BS. You're just there to have a good time.
And I've been having a blast, and going home at the end of the weekend without trailering a vehicle, without having anything to unload when I get back, except hanging my suit up in the shower so it could dry off and not get moldy. Like I gotta say,
that's right. Keep rubbing it in.
The rental race car thing is about the best thing I've ever done, and I'm so glad that I found a team that was welcoming to me and that really knows their stuff, and that keeps inviting me back. I keep getting invited back, which is great.
That is awesome.
Well, that means 2 things: they like you, and your checks cash.
That's right. Yes,
they like a paying customer.
It's like the different series, though. You found one, or in this case, a team that fits what you're looking for and what you enjoy, and has like a similar mindset in the how serious versus how much fun. And each of the different series, they tend to balance out the real racing and the fun at the track, and everybody finds their own level. And if you try them, you'll find out that Lemons has some of this and a lot of that, and Champ Car has some of this and a good amount of that, and Lucky Dog, blah blah blah. I can keep going.
Yeah, no, and these guys are like, yeah, you're right. They're a good fit for me. They're easygoing. They're not too type A about it. They're kind of like, we roll with it, whatever's good. And in fact, they have this kind of a cool strategy for the green car, the sort of amateur car. They'll sort of say, okay, for the first day, we're going to kind of set it up so that we're running the longest shifts we can. We're going to try for a podium or for a win here. But if someone gets a black flag, or if the car has a mechanical failure, we're just going to kind of revert to 90-minute shifts. We're just here to have fun for the rest of the weekend.
Get everybody a ride, let everybody have fun.
Yeah, right. So we set out to try to maybe do something good, and that might mean a longer stint, or it might mean that the next day, guy number 1 who was in the car for 3.5 hours doesn't go for the second day. But if it falls apart, we just revert back to we're just here to have a good time.
So let me make sure I'm getting this straight through my Cro-Magnon head. When I rent a car, it doesn't automatically run the entire race without incident, and I can't project exactly what time I will be getting into the car and getting out of the car to the minute. That's not what I can expect out of.
No, nor can you expect to be refunded for the minutes you did not spend in the car that you had thought or hoped you might have spent in the car. Like there's this great phrase that I have been using a lot for the last 2 years, and it goes like this: that's motorsports.
At best, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't want anybody to have the false connotation.
So just in case you didn't pick up on the 5 mile thick sarcasm that Bill was ladling on there,
it was pretty thick.
It was pretty thick, but no, I picked right up on it. But really, there's no guarantees in racing, and you get there and the car might not even start on day 1. Everybody might go home and not even drive a single minute. And that rarely or never really happens. And you just need to be prepared to accept a mechanical failure, a black flag. You get hit totally by somebody else. It wasn't your fault at all, and now everything's crushed and creamed, and your weekend is shot. You need to be ready to roll with the punches, and not get too bent out of shape if the car gets bent out of shape.
Exactly. And so your team has two cars. You've driven both. What do you think about the two as compare and contrast, and how did you spend your summer?
Well, the E30 is just like my favorite car in the world. If I could drive one car on racetracks for the rest of my life, I could happily do it in that little E30. The 46, when I drove it, was very much in stock condition, stock brakes, stock suspension, stock open differential. And that, I have to say, is the most noticeable shortcoming. I don't know quite how to word this, but like, that's the piece that I would change in a heartbeat is to a proper LSD with a nice short gear ratio, right? Yeah. A tall final drive means it's faster but slower to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So shorter gear ratio and a proper limited slip. So the E46, stock brakes, stock suspension, open differential, no ABS, no power steering, no weight reduction. It was basically a grocery getter with the seat and harnesses, and it was a challenge to drive. And
especially up the hill at New Hampshire.
Did I drive it at New Hampshire? I did not drive it at New Hampshire. Actually, I drove it at Pittsburgh and I drove it at Thompson. And the open differential presented the biggest challenge to a fast lap, because you get yourself in a situation where it starts to open up and the revs zing up on the tachometer, but the speed does not increase. It's like driving a car with a slipping clutch. So that has the biggest effect on maybe your lap times. But the lack of power steering in the E46 I really felt it. The green car, the E30, has no power steering, but it's so light. The tires are so skinny. The motor weighs nothing. So there's not really a lot of weight over the front wheels. It's easy to turn the car, but that E46 with no power steering was a real workout to hustle. And so when they finally got the power steering working again, it was like, oh, this is luxury, boys. Like, well, let's keep this up.
Living large. Living large.
And I had, so the 46 is also 2 cylinders up on the E30. And I wondered,
20 years.
20, yeah, right. Also a lot of time, but it's also with probably, I don't know what, 800 pounds up on the E30, just a ballpark guess. Okay. So I had wondered, like, what's going to be faster around what track? And I mean, it depends on the driver for sure. And it really depends on the track, though. Certain tracks favor certain types of cars. So like Thompson, I had a chance to, was it Thompson? No, it was Pittsburgh. Yeah, it was Pittsburgh. I had a chance to drive the E46 on day 1 and the E30 on day 2, and I was faster in the E30.
Is that a comfort thing, or is that you think the car is actually faster?
I think it was the car, because I don't, my lines didn't, I don't know. I think it was the car. But then again,
you must be pretty good through 5 and 6, because that was where the E30 is going to fall apart.
Oh, is 5 and 6 the up the hill from the bowl?
Yeah, up the hill.
So you gave me an awesome tip, Bill, and I want to thank you for that, by the way. And we did a track walk on Pittsburgh before Lemon's race in 2021, and we're coming down the hill towards whatever it is, 5.
5's the first one, and 6 is the one that takes you back up the hill.
Okay. And you said in that E30, Adam, you want to do your braking early so that you are already on the throttle when you're starting to turn in, so that your revs are really built up by the time you start trying to haul ass up that hill.
Yeah. You don't want to shift to just going up the hill.
No,
dead.
Oh my God, no. So I started doing that the day after you gave me that tip, and it really worked. So thanks. Good one.
Who knew? A listener got good information from Garage Heroes and Training.
Yay! All right. Thanks everybody for coming.
We've done our job.
All right, we're going home.
That's it. This is the last episode. We finally did it. Took us 499 of them to get here, but we did it. Woohoo!
And I still just, it's part of the fun is just the guys and the team. And now that I've been with them for a couple of years, we know each other. We kind of get each other's dumb senses of humor. We know that when we're yelling at each other, we don't really mean it. We're just kind of, in the heat of the moment.
Venting.
And I had this awesome zany idea one day to,
Speedos with tiger stripes. Is that what you're going? That where you're going?
Not quite.
Okay.
The team is based in Boston. I live in sort of New York / PA. I'm right on the border. So I'm a ways away from them. But when they go to Pittsburgh, they pretty much go right past my house, and they actually go right past where I work. So I said, "Hey guys, on your way to Pittsburgh this year, what would you think about if I could find a grocery store parking lot that would let us unload the race cars and do a little meet and greet? And they were like, yeah, okay, sure. We got to stop for lunch and gas anyway. So I got a buddy who owns a grocery store, and I said, Dave, can we do a little like race car expose in your parking lot? And he goes, oh my God, of course. Are you kidding? So the guys were game for this. Like, I don't know if any other rental team would have been up for this. I mean, these guys were just totally cool with it. They unloaded the cars. We just had, 2 or 3 dozen total random strangers like kind of look over at us, be like, what's that? They came over, they sat in the cars, they took pictures. We took a sledgehammer to bang some of the dents out. We just had a blast for a couple of hours and did just like a little meet and greet in my little town with these 2 hellacious race cars. We had a blast.
We've often left our cars outside one of the local tire shops that we work with, and they're like, it's amazing how many people come up and say, what is that?
Yeah, we got it a lot with the cookie car, and we got a lot with the what other car that we have? The Loki truck got a lot of looks. Like, what the heck?
and it's just so much fun to explain to people kind of what we're doing and how relatively easy it is to get involved, and how a guy like me could kind of do it. And if I like you're excited to give a good piece of advice to somebody, I'm really excited to get somebody to try this for the first time. And you are too.
We do that all the time.
That's your mission. That's kind of why you guys are here.
Yeah.
It's not to give good advice. We're on number 1 so far.
I was going to say or to win races, but you totally won. What was it? C class or B class?
It's a blind squirrel finds a nut thing, Adam. It's, you do enough of this, you got to find one.
Yeah, that was last year, and we had completely rebuilt the. Was it last year?
It was last year at Pittsburgh.
2021.
Yeah, Al and I had completely rebuilt the that truck.
Because you guys won your class. Our 6-cylinder car won their class. We were up on the podium. We were up there together. It was so cool.
That's right. Randy was there. It was awesome.
Oh, Randy was there.
Randy and Mental were the people giving out the awards. So
I remember Eric Rude when he had word that we had won. He's like, get the frig out of here. When that word came down, he knows how hard we've been.
It couldn't have happened to a better team. It really couldn't have.
It's so funny. Like, what? We got a chance of winning this? What?
So
it was funny.
The whole rental racer thing, like, again, and this is like for guys like me who don't have a garage, who don't really have the mechanical know-how, who don't want to spend the time and the money, like the rental racer is a real thing. And it's an amazing opportunity. And it's been 2 years, almost 3 years. And I still think it's the coolest thing ever. Like it has not faded at all. I still think this is like the most remarkable thing on the planet that I can do this. But like, if you're going to join a rental team, you're still sort of expected to help out. Like you're not just, it's
called a team.
Yeah, right. It's not like go-karts, arrive and drive, where you just sign the waiver, slap on the helmet, go, and then leave. You're going to help with fuel stops. You're going to help with who knows what, schlepping heavy stuff, loading the trailer up at the end of the race weekend. And even if you're not Mr. Mechanical, you can still find ways to be helpful and be handy. And really, if nothing else, like if you're going to go rent with a team, don't be a jerk. Like just, got to be a nice, friendly, pleasant person to be around.
It helps when a lot of things are going on. If there's just a person to be, backup people are so important, whether that's food prep or whether that is cleaning up the mechanics areas when things are done.
Go rent go grab a torque wrench or whatever.
Right. Just having somebody there to fill in.
Put the tools away.
Do a parts run. All that counts. So what I want to ask, Adam, is what is the easiest way of finding people that have rental seats available?
I Googled Champ Car rental, and actually Champ Car on their webpage somewhere has a little list of teams that offer rental seats. And it's usually there's an email address and a short description of the team. And you reach out and hope you get a message back. And I did, and it worked out great. Maybe I got super lucky hooking up with these guys, but there are plenty of other teams I think out there who will do it.
Hmm.
Lemons has their own that's called Okay Stupid.
Oh yeah, I've seen. And
Yeah.
right, so if you're looking for a seat, you can post up, and if there are and there are actually also a couple of Facebook groups, endurance racing seats for rent, I think one of them is called.
Mhm.
And you just keep your eye on it. And you know what, I am really tempted, just for the fun of it, I would love to rent a seat like at a Florida race or something where I have to fly to it, just to
That's
have
a
that.
cool one.
I mean, that's pretty luxury, but like
Mhm.
there's these teams all over the country. So wherever you are, there's probably one near you.
Yeah,
Yep.
we did one out in Portland. We end up meeting all out in Portland, and we had
And
a car
Laguna.
out there. Yep.
And Laguna. We're
Yep.
trying right now to get a seat share where we have a team in either Australia or New Zealand, and they give us seats and we give them seats back here, and we do a home
Like
and home.
a foreign exchange program.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love this.
Oh, that's an awesome idea.
They did lemons in Australia or New Zealand once, or they have a sort of a different version of lemons, but it's
Yeah.
approximately the same thing. And
Similar,
plus,
yeah.
man, you get out there and who knows what kind of cool hoopty cars they're going to have, Holden's and all kinds of stuff.
That's right. I don't know what that car is, but I want to drive it.
Yeah. So you guys out there, I mean, there is no reason why you cannot hop behind a wheel.
No.
And
Anywhere.
Well,
anywhere. And honestly, just take whatever you're driving to, and at least do one HPDE. So you kind of get.
That's my advice is
Right.
you can go straight out there with lemons or even champ. You really can. And they even say, like, we pride ourselves on that, and you can, but I would strongly recommend at least a track day or 2 or 3. And I did a 1-day race school in a rented race car, and that was just getting door to door in a friendly environment.
Yes.
Before you really go out there door to door with 110 cars, will alleviate a lot of the nerves and will put you in a better position to get going. So if you want to just jump right in, I guess go for it. But really, if you want my advice, and I think you guys' advice too, get yourself a couple of track days under your belt at least first.
Yeah, it'll take the nerves away.
But if you do it, and some people's schedule, some people's budget, whatever.
Yep.
If you do it, do not plan on dominating. Do not plan on winning.
No.
Just plan on surviving and keep your first stint short, because your brain will be overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
The recommended that we've done for the first people that have never been on track before was half hour to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Roughly. I mean, if you want to stay out the full 45, that's fine. If you're just totally freaked out, come back in. But
the option to come in early, though.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember
Right.
my first time out, I said to the guys, I was like, guys, like, if I radio in, this might not work for me, if to be ready to, and they said, okay. And my, 2 hours into my first stint, I was fine. Like, but still having the option and being aware that you don't have to stay out there the whole time. If it's not working, if you're exhausted, if it's too much for you, don't stay out there.
Yeah. And that's another thing that you guys just brought up a little earlier. When you do have a rented seat, there is something called car empathy, that when you're driving
mechanical empathy.
Mechanical empathy when you're driving the car, you're driving somebody else's car. So you don't want to drive that car at max.
Like a rental car.
Yeah. You
drive
really
it like
don't.
You stole it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don't drive it like you stole it. That's a good way.
Right. So you're on the hook for damage you do to the car.
Mm-hmm.
And B, if you disable the car, not only is the team going to be upset because now they have a project to work on, but anybody who hasn't driven their shift yet just got shorted out of their shift.
Right.
So
exactly.
like, imagine if someone did that to you, so yeah, bring the car back in the condition you found it in.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it sounds like it's a team.
Right. Yeah. Things are going to be happening. But when you go out on the track as in a rental, number one's a car empathy. But then again, at the same time, depending on the team that you're on, especially when they know that of what your driving level is going out there, you have a couple races on your belt to something you want to do. They don't have expectations for you.
Right.
Okay. What they want you to do is they want you to keep a steady pace, and it does not have to be at max, and bring that car back in one piece. That's all they want.
Well, with the Boston Whiners team, they have these 2 cars. One, the green Haterade car is just it's the sort of novice car. Just bring it back. We're not trying to win a race with this thing. But then they've got this other car, which after you've been with them for a while, and if they think you're good, maybe they'll put you into that faster car, and then maybe there's an expectation that you've got the
Right.
skill and the talent to actually bring home a medal.
Right.
But with that expectation comes pressure, and you shouldn't do that to a relatively new driver.
Right,
No.
right, and only on that faster car, it's only the guys who've been with the team for years that wind up in that car.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's see. I want to talk a little bit about some bad things that happened to me
Okay.
that I was part of.
We're right here, man. I mean, come on, the podcast isn't that bad. You don't have to do this.
No,
to
I mean on the racetrack. Like, it has not all been,
it's not us.
sunshine and roses and green flags and checkers. I got myself some black flags, and I kind of it was a while before I got my first black flag, and I was kind of proud of myself for a while. I was like, oh, I'm really doing good here. I'm not getting any black flags. Oh, you got a black flag? Pfft, oh, I didn't get one today. But it happened, and it actually happened a couple of times, and it actually kind of happened for the same thing happened both times. There were actually 3 black flags that I picked up over the last 2 years. And the first one was at New Hampshire, and it was coming into, I guess it would be turn 3, which is a right-hand turn, and then you start to go up the hill.
Which one? Right? New Hampshire?
New Hampshire.
Turn 3, where you go up the hill, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's turn 3. There was a pretty good crowd coming into turn 3, and I was carrying a good bit of speed, and the guy in front of me kind of got on the brakes early, and I thought I could get on the brakes, cut to the inside, and get by him on the inside. And I kind of ran out of talent and brakes, and I started understeering and kind of pushing out as he was turning in front of me, and I kind of just tapped his back corner. And if I had done it harder, I might have spun him. Like, it was a pretty perfect pit maneuver, but I didn't quite have enough momentum to actually, unsettle him. So that
wasn't your goal.
We knocked bumpers. And the officials saw it happen, and we both got sent in. Which is another thing that Lemons does that I'm not so sure that Champ does, is that Lemons penalizes everyone involved in contact rather than just the person who was sort of quote unquote at fault. And I think that it's actually a pretty good move to do that in an amateur series, because it trains you to not hit anybody, but it also trains you to just be very aware of who's around you, what's going to happen. If someone's if someone's behind you that looks like they might be making a really dumb move, you should have the wherewithal to know, stay out of their way and just keep yourself out of trouble. So at New Hampshire in turn 3, ran out of talent, sort of understeered at the apex, pushed out, and there was a guy's back bumper in the same place as my front bumper. No spins, no loss of control, but we both came in. I got out of the car later and found his garage, and I brought donuts over, and on hands and knees, I apologized profusely to the couple of guys that were there. They said, "Oh, hey man, it's racing. It's all good. We got right back out there. No problem." But the thing is, if you get involved in something like that, it's the right thing to do, to go and kind of just say, "Hey, look, sorry about that." I'll just be humble, show some humility.
Right.
So
it's always not an issue if you come over.
Right.
Right.
If you don't come over,
it can be an issue.
It doesn't matter. It's going to be an issue.
Right. So it's really the right thing. And if you happen to have donuts, bring them along.
Or liquids. Liquids are always
liquid. Yep. Any sort of liquids, whether intoxicating or perhaps not. Yeah. And then so then this year at New Jersey, I actually had 2 incidents in one stint, and it was a kind of a wake-up call to me to really do a better job of kind of evaluating my own fatigue and ability and like how deep I am into a stint. So the stint was going great at New Jersey. It was Thunderbolt. It was my first time at the track, and within 25 minutes of going out for my stint, I was feeling really good around the track. Like I was really able to send it through some of the chicanes and hold a lot of speed through places where other people were hard on brakes, and I was able to really just kind of coast through these much faster turns. I was just feeling great. But then about 90 minutes into the stint, I found myself off the line going through one of the turns. I can't remember which turn it was exactly, but I was off the line, and I kind of realized, whoa, everything's different here. Like when you're in the line, I call it, like I say, in the pocket too. Like when you're on the line, the track pulls you around. The track
Yeah.
wants your car to do the right thing.
Right.
As soon as you're driving off the line, if you're in an unusual place on the track, everything changes. The camber of the road surface under your wheels, just the amount of grip that's available, what's, the amount of runoff you have left, everything changes. And I hadn't quite grasped that. So I find myself off the line, tried to correct, boop, off the track I go, spin, 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 whoops, no problem. I rejoin safely, good look over my shoulder to make sure there's no one coming, but Lemons will black flag you for loss of control.
Right.
So I come in, I get yelled at. I say, I'm super sorry. They send me back out. 30 minutes later, I'm coming into turn, again, I can't quite remember which number turn it was, but the same thing happened that had happened to me in New Hampshire. And I tried to move on the inside of the turn while under braking. I didn't give myself enough time on the brakes. I had too much speed. I understeered through the turn. I clipped a guy's back bumper. This time it was hard enough to pit maneuver him. We lock eyes as he spins to face me, eyes wide. I'm going, oh crap, I'm so sorry, dude.
No.
He spins.
My gosh. And I bet it was like in slow motion as you're mouthing it to him.
Totally. I'm so sorry. We both wind up, he winds up facing the right direction. No other cars involved. Nobody's hurt. Cars are fine, but we both just pull right into pits and self-report. And at that point, the Lemons judges were not happy with me because the Haterade car is very recognizable.
Yeah.
So they see that thing in a second time and they threw the book at me and they basically said, get out of the car, park it for a half an hour. Or they said, you can go back out, but if you get another black flag, you're done for the weekend. And I was like, no, I'm going to park it and get out. And blessedly, this happened 30 minutes before the end of my stint. So basically the car just got parked for the rest of my stint and the next guy got to go out on time. So thank goodness that worked. I didn't rob anybody of their shift. And that's what can happen if you get yourself in serious trouble, is you can screw somebody else out of their weekend that they paid a lot of money for.
Right.
So I think I learned a pretty valuable lesson, particularly at New Jersey. I mean, it started at New Hampshire and I'm hoping I finished the lesson in New Jersey. I mean, we're never done learning, I guess, but both of those things happened to me sort of deep into the shift. And so that's kind of what had me, have my team radio to me and say, Adam, how you doing? Just check in, maybe dial it back a little bit, just be aware that you've been out there for an hour and a half and you've still got a while to go. You don't need to be setting lap records. You just need to be driving cleanly.
So Bill, what have you done to work on brain fog?
So I have a habit of every time I cross the start finish line, I touch my tongue to the top of my mouth.
Oh.
And if I don't do that, then I know I'm not thinking.
Cool.
Oh, I never thought about that. Like doing something like that.
I have a buddy who points at the gauges on the straightaway every time just to draw his attention to them and say, okay, check. So he just makes that physical motion. But I like what you're saying is like, if you realize that you didn't do that one time,
you're not there.
You're not there.
And you need to be there. This is one thing about racing. There is no
there's no
letting your mind wander.
Yeah, I've caught myself doing that at pit race and going into turn one, and I was just like do, and I was like, oh no, because then I noticed that my speeds were dropping.
Yeah, right. You lose focus. You lose.
I lose focus. I wasn't even lifting. I was just like driving, and I wasn't racing.
I have caught myself doing the same thing. You just all of a sudden you're kind of in driving around town mode.
Right. Yeah.
And
I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah.
It was easy to do that in the E46 when it was very, very stock, because it really felt like a driving around town car. It was very soft and compliant. In the green E30, the exhaust is louder than any car I've ever been in my entire life. So you kind of can't really forget you're in a race car.
It all depends on the comfort level of the car you're driving.
Well, speaking of comfort, Vicky,
is there something you would recommend for improving your comfort or perhaps attentiveness while driving?
If your car does not have a cool shirt system, you must install one.
Right.
Unless you plan to do all your racing in April and October. I mean, in those months you can get away without it for sure. But if you're doing any racing in the summer, especially endurance racing, I mean, a cool shirt will save your life. You could have a heat exhausted issue.
They're also awesome in the garage in June, July, and August.
You have like really
apparently
long leads on them?
Apparently they've done that. They've made long leads on them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want that. And I've actually got a buddy who
we've
has
only
one.
needed for Thompson though, honestly, for us.
New Jersey a couple times, and
New Jersey has. Is it just me, or do these racetracks have their own weather systems?
I really do think so.
Think about it this way, Miss Vicky. If you're going to say we only need it for Thompson, imagine if you were to remind yourself of where we were when we were at New Jersey.
Grid life.
With
Grid life was brutal. Oh my God. I literally thought that Thompson in August was hot, and we ended up doing grid life in July, and it was terrible. It was awful.
They must have built that racetrack on a swamp or something, because it is so humid and it just sits there.
Oh, up at Thompson? Yeah.
No, New Jersey. New Jersey must have been. It's so humid, it feels like.
Yeah. It was the hottest we've ever been.
The cool shirt,
especially in New Jersey. Yeah.
It's a miracle. It is so effective. It is so incredibly effective. And boy, what a treat.
Right?
You're 60 minutes into a 2-hour shift. You just you flip that switch, and it's just.
Okay. It's like air conditioning.
Not the first one though. The first one is not It takes there's like a little.
You've worked yourself up already.
and then you're like but that little first is okay.
The other thing I did to improve in-car comfort was lose 35 pounds. And
that's a lot of carbon fiber, man. You saved yourself a lot of money.
Well, I shaved. I don't know if you noticed, but that's about a pound. No, but I was pretty stout. I would say I was kind of barrel shaped. And what was happening was about an hour into my shift.
Round is a shape. Just remember that. Round
sort of
is a shape. It's a shape, man. It's Are you in shape? Yes, I am. A
shape. Yeah. But about an hour into the shift, I would start getting acid reflux.
Yeah.
Sort of heartburn, just like sour stomach feeling, and it's distracting and it's unpleasant. And the reason really is that you've got all this extra weight around your belly and your guts, and it kind of pushes on them, and then the acid you carry around in your stomach, makes its way into places it's not supposed to.
The harnesses squish you.
With G-forces like crazy, and you're breathing hard. You're just tense. So losing the weight, basically, I lost 35 pounds, and since I did that, the reflux has not been an issue.
Wow.
It's really been nice. And I used to like chew 5 or 6 ultra strength Tums before I would get in the car. And I don't have to do it anymore.
And
even more reason.
You're faster.
Right. Yeah.
Lighter.
Simplify and add lightness, right?
Exactly. So, sir, what do you think? What do you think your highlights in your first couple of years? When do you look back and say that was pretty awesome? And what didn't quite get there? The good, bad, and the ugly. Because we need the story too. The story is the best part.
I guess we'll start with good. Is that I've noticed a gradual and sort of steady improvement in my sort of confidence moving through traffic. I've also scored a couple of sort of team fastest laps, which I will say until I'm blue in the face, lap times are irrelevant in endurance racing.
Absolutely.
But it is still a nice little feather in your cap to come back and be the fastest guy on the team. But again, with traffic and everything, it's you can't use lap times really for much of anything, but it still feels good. But I've also tracked my own best laps around different tracks, and I'm shaving seconds off of those as I go back again and again to a track. So that's been great. I've also seen some pretty gnarly wrecks, whether my team or some other team who rolls a car at New Hampshire or puts into the tires somewhere, or any number of things. And in fact, one of our cars was the cause for a red flag, and it got completely totaled at Thompson at a Champ Car race. When coming down the straightaway, it was 3 wide down the straightaway, and then a 4th car decided to make it 4 wide down the straightaway.
That doesn't end well.
No, it really doesn't. And what happened was that 4th car all the way off. So our car was all the way track left, and this new 4th car was all the way track right. And the track just kind of gets a little narrow at one point, and it can't accommodate 4 cars. And so the car all the way track right put a wheel or two into the grass, kind of tried to swing it back on, tap the car next to him, who tapped the car next to him, and then our car got smacked pretty hard. Once a car starts sliding, once you switch from rolling friction to sliding friction, there's not really a whole. I mean, there's some you can save, but at a certain point, there's not much you can do besides cross your arms over your chest and wait for the impact. So our 6-cylinder E30 hit a concrete barrier hard enough to lift it out of the ground
at the end of turn one.
No, before turn one, along the straight. Like, in fact, it was right in front of the support vehicles. Like, it was the shortest trip any support vehicle has probably had to make. And it was awesome. It was fortunately the cage did its job. Man, did the cage do its job. Driver was fine. Yeah, his harnesses were fine. The ratchet straps that we used to hold the cool shirt cooler in were shredded, completely shredded.
Wow,
they were totally shredded.
Did it flight or did it stay in place?
It seemed to stay in place.
Okay, that's good.
Yep. The now Champ Car has this Flagtronics thing, which is it's kind of cool. I actually don't like it at all because it's computer, and computers are prone to fallibility. And I actually watched that happen at a Champ Car race recently. They basically said, "Oh, the Flagtronics isn't working. We're going back to regular flags for like the whole second day." So the electronics are prone to break. But anyway, the Flagtronics unit is supposed to register a high G impact. But in our case, it wasn't mounted in such a way. It was mounted in such a way that when the car impacted, the Flagtronics unit just kind of fell over and didn't absorb the G's and didn't register those G's. So it didn't quite do what it was supposed to do either. So again, so you start to rely on these electronics, and it doesn't always work for you.
Well, it's using radio waves, so we know nobody on radio you can trust. So, you have any favorite story from your first few years, Adam?
I'm trying to think here. Well,
it could be a good story. It doesn't have to be bad.
I mean, the highlight to date, basically, was this last race we did at New Hampshire, and normally the team releases the schedule a day or two before the race, who's going to be in when, approximately. And like we sort of said earlier, it's always subject to change. But they hadn't released the schedule. And, I get there the night before and I get a call from one of the team captains, and he says, "Okay, so we're going to try for a win in the green car," which is a foreign phrase.
I was going to say that's new.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard that. And the green car, like I said, is this little 1.8. It's the beginner car. But the way it was, it's in
B, right?
It's in B. Sometimes it gets lapped, sometimes it doesn't. Sort of depends on the track. But the configuration of New Hampshire, the timing of the two race days, it was 2 7-hour days, I'm pretty sure.
I think so, this year, yeah.
And the efficiency that the 1.8 liter motor affords you led the team to think that if the green car drove cleanly and was able to economize enough to minimize fuel stops to 1 per day, it had a chance to win. So the strategy was 4 guys drive the car. Each guy only drives 1 stint over the whole weekend, and each stint is 3.5 hours. We bank on some full course yellows and maybe even a red flag or two to provide some time when the car will not be running at full chat so that it doesn't burn all that gas. Right. We shift it at 5,000 RPMs instead of 6. And we just, again, we're practically driving around town, just moving through traffic when we safely can and just not coming in. And at the end of day 1, this guy, Joe Demers, drove the first shift, drove it cleanly. And by the way, the plan also was, if the car gets a black flag, if it has a mechanical, we're just going to revert to, 90-minute or 2-hour shift. Plan C, just plan, have fun.
Yeah.
So Joe goes out there for the first shift, 3.5 hours. There is a red flag that happens, which, I mean, everyone was okay, but we all back at the paddock are kind of like, okay, we got a red flag. We're not burning gas right now. The ignition's off for 15 minutes or so. Joe comes back in and hands the car off to me with no black flags. I get in it and have a clean a clean 3.5 hour stint. It was 3 hours and 10 minutes, I think it shook out to be. There's a full course yellow in there, so I had a chance to kind of relax a little bit and burn a little less gas.
Mhm.
And at the end of day one, that haterade car was leading B class by 6 laps.
Wow.
And
Yes, it was.
That was looking up. And New Hampshire has the big billboard, right, with all the positions and everything, and to see the number 306 up there. And not only that, but the next day we gridded. We were in the top 10 to grid. We were first in class. We were 6th overall or 7th overall, I think. So we got to grid the next morning. So me and Joe were like, we were beside ourselves at the end of day one, and we all said, like, look, even
it's
if
only started.
Yeah, we're halfway there. Even if day two if day two just falls apart, hey, we did this, and this is like something to be proud of. And day two started pretty good. I think Andy had the first shift and it had a clean shift, drove 3.5 hours, one of the team owners, and took good care of the car, brought it back. And then Anton went out and unfortunately encountered a mechanical, which brought him in. We were able to fix the mechanical and send him out, but basically at that point we lost that nice 6-lap buffer we had. And so it was kind of starting to look like we might not be able to quite pull it off. And then with about a half an hour left, there was a front sway bar sort of came apart and was kind of banging against something, and they just said, you know what, we're not going to win it. So rather than just try to push for the last half hour, we'll just bring it in and call it quits here. But we got within spitting distance of a B class victory in that car, and that was the friggin' coolest thing.
And that for the home game players, that is definitely not an A car.
No, once that car gets into A, we're going to have to put a fuel cell in it and a supercharger, and it will never be competitive in A. Yeah. But it would be pretty wild to take B class with it one day.
It would be, yeah, because usually the hardest class tends to be B to win, because you've got a few cars, depending on the race. You could have a couple cars that are really A class cars that either were very good in judging or were misjudged, and then you've got like really good B class cars, and it's hard to win B.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition for sure. Yeah. And in my time out on tracks, I've seen it's been really fun to be on track with some much faster cars, and to sort of see how the little 1.8 kind of performs against them. And I've gotten around New Hampshire in particular, I hung with like it was a blue. The back end of it was blue. It was a Corvette, and on the straightaways, he would just walk away from me, but I would catch right back up to him, even maybe put my nose past him a couple of times, a little back and forth, but then back when it straightens out, he's gone again. And it's just really cool to see, where a lightweight car can excel against a heavier, faster car.
So Adam, it sounds like you're still having a good time. Is there anything that's grown in terms of, I wanted to do this, I always wanted to do this, and then you came into it, and then something that maybe was amplified, or something new that was like, this is what I really like about this, and makes me happy?
It's kind of, I think it's just the same. It's the same stuff. I remember when I first talked to you guys a couple of years ago, I was just finding all this joy in leaving the throttle on the floor as long as I possibly could, and just keeping momentum, and seeing spots where other people were on the brakes, or where I could just lift instead of be on the brakes. And there's coming into the S's at Thompson, you're pointing at the porta potties, and you're going to start to turn left, and people are always braking for that. And I found pretty quickly that you could just lift for that, and then as you turn the car, the steering wheel is a brake essentially. Once you start turning the car, your speed scrubs off. So maybe you don't have to be on the brakes. Maybe you can let the turning do the slowing.
Look at him.
Depends on the car.
And then elevation changes you can use to your advantage too. You can have a hill catch you. You can throw your car at a hill if you're turning up the hill, let's say, and the hill will kind of slow you down and compress your suspension a little bit as you come up at it, and just to be able to kind of pick some of those moments out and find some of those spots where you can really squeeze the car to be faster than you thought it would be. You kind of your spidey sense is telling you, like, dude, what are you doing? You can't go that fast to this turn. But eventually you prove yourself wrong, and finding those moments has just been tremendous.
you have any more tips and tricks about how you get around the track?
Any track.
See, I found it for me just to find a fast car.
Just follow someone fast. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because they actually just like cut. Yeah, they cut through the traffic for you most of the time, and they actually open up an avenue for you.
You can find someone to kind of run blocker. Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, that's a, what's the word? I've heard the
rabbits. We used to call them rabbits.
All right. You make a pick. Does the word pick mean anything?
Yeah. No. Pick. Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So a pick is when you use let's say you're going through traffic and you're let's say you've been battling with somebody and you're having trouble getting around them. You know, you're faster. But sometimes when you just can't get them because they get to their lap time a different way.
Oh, I know that song very well. Yes.
So what you can do is let Amanda pass you.
It's always Amanda. Yeah.
It's always Amanda.
It's always Amanda.
That's right. And then Amanda gets through, but if there's a car in front of the other car that she's passing and you get behind Amanda, you now have them stuck in a pick because they can't get out from behind the car. They can't get out because Amanda's next to him, and they can't get behind Amanda because you're there.
It's sort of like that scene in Smokey and the Bandit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Only
where they tuck him into the cradle.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Precisely.
So,
yeah. Okay. Right. So that's a skill, and it's also it can be kind of a jerk move sometimes, I think. And they harp on this at Lemons races, especially. They say we're all friends here. Like be nice to each other out there, and I think that's very important.
It is. And, we've said it. I think this will be the third time. I say it all the time when I'm at an HPDE because people start getting on their bitch and moan soapbox about point buys. It's like, who came here to get in front of their friends and go as slow as possible and keep them behind them? Right. I mean, whose goal was that? Raise your hand. And, you see thousands of hands. No, because nobody goes there to do that.
Right.
So, you can get angry that they're not giving you a point buy, but think about it, especially in the lower levels, you're not allowed to pass there. So they can't give you a point buy. So getting mad at them for not giving you a point buy in an area where they can't give you a point buy is stupid.
Yeah.
So it's a team. Even it's a team, the endurance team that you're on, like you're on the Haterade team with the Boston Whiners. We're on a Garage Years and Training team following you or being passed by you, depends on where we're at. But your team and our team and every other team that's racing in a race are a team. And we're trying to keep everybody safe. We're trying to make sure everybody's happy. And we're trying to have a good time. Mm-hmm. And when you forget that, you're doing it wrong.
Yes. And you're ruining other people's days.
Because Adam, I don't know about you, but in your history of racing, how many mortgage payments have you made by the bounty that you've won from racing?
do you guys know how to make $1 million as a race car driver?
Sure.
Start with 2 million.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the only way. So
yeah, that's about it. No, you're absolutely right. And it's we're all out there to have fun and to get angry and to anger other people is just you're like you said, you're doing it wrong. In terms of like practicing and in terms of like learning ways around the track, do you guys do any simulator racing at all?
We do. And we have a simulator that you have an open invite to come.
Well, I do too. So I one of my big purchases when I first started, I bought a big powerful computer and I bought a VR headset and I bought the seat that I attached the pedals and all that to. And I got iRacing subscription and it has been great. Like it just about scratches the itch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm dying to go turn laps, I can just fire up the iRacing rig and I can 7/10 of the way there. I can get a lot of the fun,
Well, I mean, the one thing we're doing this year is we made a concerted effort to actually A, do iRacing and B, learn how to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get somebody to help us while we're doing it because now we can actually the biggest reason that we didn't iRace as much as we wanted to was the sim we have is fine, the computer we have is fine. Setting it up would take like 30 minutes because we just don't have room.
Oh, I know all about that. Yeah.
So 30 minutes to set up to go do 20 minutes of iRacing is and then 30 minutes to put it away.
Right.
Is ridiculous. So we're moving shortly and we will be able to
permanent deployment. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yep,
So,
Mhm.
you know, we hope to be doing it a lot more, and Vicky and I both have that as one of our goals for next year, even though we haven't done our goals episode, but that's okay.
Yeah, we're going to be setting all that up.
You know, we have a goal that we'd like to add to your schedule, Mr. Owens.
Go on.
I'm going to threaten you with a good time.
Okay.
What I would
I'm
like to,
all ears. Yeah.
what I would like to is I would like to extend to you an invitation to come to our favorite HPD event of the year. It's usually in July. It's at Pit Race, so you love the track. We think you'll love the organization. It's with NASA Great Lakes.
Oh,
And come do an HPD with us.
yeah. If I would love that.
right.
Let's talk dates. You know, summers can be busy, but let's
Once the schedule is made, I will bother you. Do not worry.
I'd love that. And you know, it's just my favorite. It's one of my favorite tracks. I really love it.
It's fun. It's still my number one, although I've heard rumors that others were coming that were going to take its place. But so far, still the reigning king or queen. I'm not sure if a track is a he or a she, but whatever.
So I've done a little bit of other motorsport kind of stuff too. My girlfriend and I did a road rally recently.
Oh, Vicky did one. She had a great time.
They give you like the tulip sheet with the little sort of vague instructions, right? And you have to kind of finish exactly on time to the second.
Oh, the time speed distance.
Time speed distance, TSD, right?
Yeah.
So they set out this route, and it's, you know, whatever it is, it's 100 miles broken up into 6 sections. And they figure that section 1 should take you, if you follow the instructions perfectly, it should take you 31 minutes and 22 seconds to finish section 1. And so they have a guy around some random corner with a little marker and a stopwatch. And as soon as he sees you come around, he clicks the stopwatch and writes down the time. And then at the end of the day, you compare it to the time you left the place. And anyway, you're supposed to be like finishing each section literally to the second accurate. And it's really tough to do, but me and my girlfriend went out and did it. And it is a tremendous way to test the strength of your relationship, because you will argue and you will be ready to kill each other, but then you'll get into a rhythm and you'll be doing great.
More time in a car with my wife doing competitive things.
Do a high pressure environment with
no problem.
But we actually we scored an ace on one of the segments. It was 41 minutes and 22 seconds or whatever, and we got it to the second. It was, and again, what did you say, Bill? Great expression. A flying squirrel eventually catches a nut.
Exactly.
That's right.
Blind squirrel.
Yeah. He is not lying when he says, yeah, he and I might be pretty rough. I mean, we could have a blast, but it could be pretty rough.
It really does. I would say it is the best way. It's that and going to IKEA apparently are the two ways to test a relationship.
Trying to teach them a sport like golf or racing.
Instructing of any kind.
Instructing.
Yeah. not on the preferred path for social longevity.
Not for 25 years of marriage.
So you guys are talking about your goals episode, and I'm excited to hear that, because I love the way you guys, you're so thorough and thoughtful with your processes, and you're really good at, you know, sort of putting words to this stuff and getting it out there. And I've actually kind of taken a little bit of a cue, and I've got sort of my 2023 goals, and you know, one, it's just do more of it. 2, it's probably going to go race at Watkins Glen. Like, I feel like that's a good next step for me, and I think I'm kind of ready for that. I feel confident enough to do that. I looked,
boy track, buddy.
It's a big boy track. And I think I'm in the ballpark. I don't know if I'm 100% ready, but you know,
there's certain spots you're going to need to creep up on.
Yeah. And again, I'll approach it with, I think, the same attitude that I've kind of been approaching all this with, is just like, be safe. Bring the car back in one piece. You're not there to win the race. You're just there to like have fun and build experience. You know, nobody's gonna sign you to their F1 team at a champ car race. So just go have fun and be safe. You know,
there's one thing I'd add. Blue bushes are bad.
Blue bushes are bad.
Yeah.
I think I assume I'll know what that means when the time comes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any of the blue bushes.
Okay.
Bad.
Right. Just stay away.
Don't do those. They're not for fun.
You know, I looked at one of one of the challenges with Champ and Lemons Racing is the density of competition on the track, right? There's 110 cars to take the green flag, or more, perhaps.
Sometimes.
By the end of a Lemons race, there's 62 left. But on day one, there's a lot of cars, and it's an adventure. It's a learning experience, but it can also be a little overwhelming, or a little bit like, okay, like I'm just kind of fighting traffic here. I'm not really, having a good, fun, fast race day sort of thing.
Right.
So I looked at AER and the possibility of renting a seat there. And yeah, I've watched lots of onboard footage and some race videos from AER races, and it's clear that it's a much more polished and professional group of people, and the prep level of the cars is polished and improved as well. And B, like it's just a less crowded field. There might be 35 cars that take the green flag or something like that.
Yeah.
So I looked into it, but the price is, I would say, about double to rent a seat at an AER race than it is at a Champ or Lemons race.
If only you knew some people who race in AER.
That's right.
That have a podcast.
Really? I didn't know you guys did AER.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
We can work something out.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, that might be really cool. So we'll talk. But that was really, everything about AER seems pretty great. There's the sort of application licensing process is,
it's a different balance of the priorities, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So to get in, if you've never been with them before, there's a little bit of an application process, but I think I'm pretty confident I can handle that, and I could show them in-car video of me not being an idiot, that they would say, like, okay, this guy can probably hang with us. So I'd be really excited to try that. If you guys ever happen to be, if there's an opportunity to run with you guys, I'd love to. So we'll talk about that for sure. But the other thing for next year is that, like, I might have to do less of this, which is a kind of a sort of a bummer to think about, but there's other priorities in life, and there's other things to spend money on. And when you're gone more weekends than you're home, your wife or your girlfriend gets sort of upset and it's
see what you do. You see the thing you're doing wrong, Adam.
Go on, tell me.
Captain's log supplemental.
So, Miss Vicky.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those Grid Life events where you used to see the in-car video, and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on? Most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
We have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars. Maybe two.
I really think we should.
I think we should.
I know.
Because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh, wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
so what does the Sentinel system do?
We could have 3 cameras with picture-in-picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there. And then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.
If you look at the hosting of this podcast, what you do is you bring her not to watch,
but to participate.
Yeah,
but it's not everybody's cup of tea.
No, but let's talk about this pit race event. I know somebody who could be her instructor if she were to come in HPD 1. Just saying.
And I'm already signed off for HPD 2. So I did a NASA track day, and I got myself bumped right up to HPD 2 with you guys. That's right. Yep. Oh my gosh, how can I forget?
We were there.
So,
yeah.
And so
I know.
And that passport is good at any NASA event, right? It's not just NASA Northeast. So yeah, it's great. So well, yeah, so maybe we'll see. I wouldn't promise
she's got to kind of want it, but
right. Right.
Yeah. Don't force it, but it's not a bad thing. Although it does open up Pandora's box, because then nobody says no, and then you end up like this, like too many cars and a podcast, and crazy people doing Dominic Dawson's with us for no reason whatsoever. But we'll get there.
And I guess the final chapter for next year will probably be more time in an E46 for me.
Oh, nice.
It looks like the team is generally migrating towards E46s. And that probably will be what I'm in. And so, I feel like I've cut my teeth pretty well in this little 1.8 liter. And as much as I love it, I'm interested to see what's next.
Well, the potential AER car that we could talk about, there's two of them, and they're both E46s. So
seems to be the way to go.
Well, it's kind of the easy button. It's one of the easy buttons.
Well, and there's this whole thing with Lemons. They don't like BMWs, and I sort of understand why, but they are durable. They are parts available. They are, pretty easy they just seem like the easy button, I guess is a good way to put it, but they just seem like kind of the right tool for the job.
Yeah. I mean, Lemons doesn't like E46s for sure.
They especially don't like unthemed E46s, as we found out in New Hampshire. They were not happy when our E46 rolled into BS because it was just eggplant purple and nothing else.
Purple is not a theme.
The purple is not a theme. So the guys did a good job. We had a fine theme by the end of by the green flag on day one. But yeah,
you have tilted the balance from what they want. And as we talked about earlier, Lemons is what Lemons is, and if you try and change it, you're going to lose.
Yep.
So, you've won, Adam. You have won, sir.
Well,
you went from basically not driving, wishing you were, to where now you are an experienced race driver, multiple races, multiple victories on your team. You've been on a ride and drive with your team for many, many races, and you're going through the HPD ladder system. I mean, I'd say you're ahead of 7 to 8 billion people, so you're doing something right.
I feel good about where I'm at and how I've arrived here. So,
and you had fun,
and I did, and I have a lot of people to thank, and you guys are definitely some of those people. And I really want to say thank you for encouraging me, for letting me lean on your shoulders, and for amazingly and astonishingly giving me a good tip at pit. I mean,
blind squirrel, baby, blind squirrel.
So thank you guys very much.
So Adam, you're always welcome, as is your friend in the background, which we need to do a screen grab of this one. That's he's fantastic. So there you go. Adam, if people want to follow along your team, yourself, how would they do that?
Me on Facebook is the best way. And I've sort of become one of the biggest cheerleaders for the team. I sort of designed and printed a bunch of merchandise, and I'm really just sort of excited about it, and I'm trying to spread the word. So definitely find me on Facebook if you're interested. It's facebook.com/Adam Owens 84570, and that is a portmanteau of my two area codes. On the New York side of the river, it's the 845, and on the PA side, it's 570. So 84570, sort of a
portmanteau. That's the red thing inside the olive, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just go with you.
Yeah. The jokes are there. It's more quantity than quality with the jokes on this podcast. So,
Oh, you guys are great.
Thank you again for coming on, Adam.
Well, thanks so much for having me, you guys.
It was fantastic.
All right. We'll see you out there. Okay.
And someday we'll sound as good as you on our own podcast.
Thanks very much, Adam, for coming on.
Thanks for having me again, and stay safe. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Got it.
What's up, sir?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Good. Excellent.
Can you hear
me? Can you hear me if I whisper?
I can.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
You sound all DJ on me, man.
Audio quality is very important to me. can I say?
I fully understand. I am going to. I don't know if you've been keeping up or which episodes we talk about what, but we actually finally bought a house out here.
Hey, wait, had
Yeah.
you been renting up until now or
Yeah.
something? Okay, cool.
Like minor 8 years, no big deal.
Oh, okay. I bought a house too. I think you do that.
I know that. But we were going to set up a podcast room with like a mixer board and everything. And I said, if only I knew somebody who knows their way around audio and a mixer board.
Yeah, sure.
That I could bribe with really good food.
Yeah, I'll come. I'll absolutely. I mean, you don't need much. You really don't. But we'll talk for sure.
Oh, I think I have it. I just want to set it up right.
Oh,
so
yeah, I'll totally come and help you with that. For sure.
Cool.
That's easy.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't be too hard to talk into.
I'm overdue for a visit anyway.
Oh yeah, we haven't been able to catch up with you for a while. It's
been like busy.
2 ships crossing in the wind.
I've been real busy.
That's okay. It looks like you've been having fun though.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Let me do my husbandly duty.
Cool background.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
No filter. All right.
Yeah, I was looking back and that's lovely. That's spectacular. I could not help but throw up the Muppet. So I just thought that was way too much fun when you went to the mustache only. I was like, is it just me?
Oh.
And then what was the other one that I had to apologize for? I can't remember. Oh, I was looking through, like, I have these reminders for things I'm supposed to do with the podcast. And we had originally talked about going on the radio and doing stuff. And I was like, I can come on and be an excuse for Adam to have more reason to talk about his racing. So,
yeah, absolutely.
If you ever want
for
to.
sure. No, absolutely.
Not a big deal. It doesn't take much to get me to go talk about cars. And if I can help somebody else talk about cars, because what we could do is we could find somebody to come racing with us.
Yeah.
We could even do a contest. We could even do a contest. Wouldn't cost a radio station anything.
Let's see. So I wrote some notes that
Did
I kind of, I was like, well, what the heck are we going to talk about? But I got plenty to talk about. So
I have a Google Doc that says shoot the shit for this one.
Okay. All right. That's cool. I mean, you want me to send you my notes? Would that be
if you want to. That way I'll know what that's.
If I can do this, can I share this with? I bet I can.
Is it Google Doc?
Yeah, it is.
Just do garage shares and training at gmail.com.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Vicky.
Now we can hear
yes.
Adam, what are you doing?
Hey, how we doing?
Doing good. You're looking good.
Thank you. I lost some weight.
Yeah.
Shaving took a pound off too. I mean,
well, you don't have that thinly sparse beard, I mean, yours.
But the mustache put a little bit back on.
Yeah. No, it's a big beard when it goes.
Yeah.
I remember when you shaved it. I'm like, I have no idea who that guy is.
Yeah.
He looks familiar though.
Once I start talking, they recognize me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be easy. We love Adam. We love talking to Adam. We've been doing the same stuff.
Rookie year. Oh, yeah.
So
I just love talking about just racing in general.
She needs more people that eyes don't glaze over when she starts talking.
My God, that's the problem.
Me too. Yeah, it's
I just like being a girl and having friends that are girl and not enough friends that are guys. It's like, even if I just start talking about stuff, they're excited there for a few minutes. Then they
glaze. No, I know. You.
It's like the shark in Jaws,
There's a growing contingent of female racers and enthusiasts, and I think you'll. Oh, for Fox's sake, it's good.
We're here for your entertainment, man.
No, it's for sure. It's for sure. But that's why it's like I call on
Amanda.
Friends. Well, Amanda is the one girl that I know that's into it, and of course Jen. But when it comes to engine people, I just call my guy friends.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what do you say, Bill?
I say, how you doing? Yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's see. We'll be rolling through this. Vicky, you have no trouble with conversation. You just have trouble with letting other people talk.
Yes.
I think we'll have plenty to talk about.
And if anything gets out of control, my friend over here will step in
sending
and
sending in the
send in
Yeah.
the clowns.
the enforcer.
This should be a theme for one of our
It should
cars.
be.
Now that I think
It
about
should
it,
be. You know, you could be the what was
You
it?
just bring it out to the paddock.
let's have it kind of hanging around. Yeah,
or you just because it's on a stick, right?
it is. It's on a big tall stick. Yeah, it's like a big
just
flag almost.
Just put it through the roof of the car.
Put it through.
while
Yeah,
the
put a
car's
hole in the
parked.
roof and stick it
Exactly.
through. Yeah.
You use a rubber gusset, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. How bad could it be?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know what? We had a friend, Keith, that came to visit, and that was one thing that he was a truck NASCAR driver that came to join our team and for a trip, but he was very interested in it because of that reason.
His name was Kyle.
Oh, Kyle. I'm sorry, Keith. I'm sorry, Kyle.
You're,
Keith.
you're close. You're close.
Yeah. Bill.
She just
okay.
woke up from her afternoon
Yeah.
nap.
Okay. So we had, I'm going to edit that part out.
Really?
Bill's microphone went off. Bill's microphone went off.